But the other problem that really concerns me is that we don't think President Trump knows or realizes that these parents haven't been taken care of. And we're starting to get together with other groups, like some of the J6ers who are still being persecuted, whose pardons
Yes.
have been ignored, like abortion protesters, like people, well, Tina Peters and our friend Mike Lindell. I've done communications work for Mike Lindell and still have a great relationship with him.
Hmm.
They haven't, they've not been helped. And then to add insult to injury, we had this provision in the spending bill that stopped the shutdown of the government, giving this just clear violation of the 14th Amendment, giving senators this special legal privilege that they can sue for every infraction of their phones being tapped or some other way
Yes.
the DOJ trampled on their rights, and there's no immunity offered to the feds. While the rest of us out here outside the castle, they pulled up the drawbridge and we're on our own. We're out of luck. How much
Well,
money
yeah.
has Mike Lindell had to raise? And we've all donated to him. How much money has he had to raise just to stay alive? But suddenly, okay, Lindsey Graham's phone, he finds out his phone got tapped, and suddenly now it's an emergency. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and at $500,000 per infraction, which is also insane. But that's really the underlying problem, is we know for a fact this was all directed by Merrick Garland at Biden or whoever is pulling Biden's strings behest to use federal resources to target and harass parents to silence your voices. They didn't like that parents were seeing what their kids were learning on in school and furious about that and going to their school boards. They didn't like other parents like you that were looking at this ridiculous COVID policy that wasn't meant to protect Americans or any of this other nonsense. It was meant for control. These were laws that weren't protecting anybody, measures that didn't accomplish anything, mask mandates, other sort of just harassment nonsense. And we know that the Biden regime also got federal law enforcement involved in this just to make people's lives difficult, essentially, to harass anybody that was brave enough to speak out and stand up to their agenda. And a lot of you suffered legal repercussions because of it. Now, the parents that suffered under this, again, totally unlawful act from the Biden regime, they deserve to be made whole. A lot of them, like your $10,000 fine, jail time, other costs associated with any legal fees, being forced to move across the country, dealing
Yeah,
with all these other
yeah.
disruptions.
You read
Yeah,
these stories in the dossier, it's absolutely shocking. You can hardly believe this happened in the United States of America. Dinesh D'Souza put out Police State. It's exactly like that. And everybody knows about J6, and we know about some of the people. We know about Tina Peters being in prison, which she should be
sure.
out by now, but
Yeah,
a few people know about these parents. And
sure.
but Michael, I want to read you a little bit because I penned a letter. We've had people signing on, and I haven't really totally gotten it out yet. But David Summerall from StopHate.com has signed on. Seek Smith, founder of Mama Marine Dad Army. Joe Hoft, brother of Jim Hoft, he signed on. I really haven't showed it to many people yet, but I want to read you a part of this letter because I think it will say clearly what the problem is and how it's a danger to our republic, what's happening. And I'll tell you, when you start hearing people like John Solomon, Steve Bannon, gosh, who was it the other day? Christina Bobb saying
Hmm.
the government isn't helping the people, they're not fulfilling their promises,
Yeah.
then it's actually a real problem. I'm not just making this up. And then we have parents coming to us. Like one of the parents said, I'm never voting Republican again. I'm going to see if the Democrats will help. We have people saying they're going to launch lawsuits. I mean, this is a catastrophe that's
Well,
brewing, and people need to
yeah.
know about it.
And it seems like such an easy win for the Trump administration, which is why I kind of don't understand they're taking this position that, oh no, we stopped the harassment, which again is not entirely true, especially in a lot of these blue states. They're continuing to harass a lot of these parents that stood up or continuing to pursue them legally.
Yeah.
But the fact again, like you are entitled to some sort of restitution to be made whole again. You know, and again, no one's blaming the Trump administration for what happened to everybody illegally, but the fact that they won't want to are
We
continuing
just
not to address
we,
it now,
we
that's
just
where the
think
problem is.
we just think the president doesn't know that maybe some of his advisors are saying things that have been handled that haven't. And I know how the parents feel about this, and it's not a good look. President Trump is losing his base. And you're right. It is like Steve Bannon called it like a softball pitch. And he asked
Yes.
he asked Sam Sorbo, Why hasn't this been done? This should have been done already. And, we've had the excuse of, well, the shutdown's in place, and now we're getting other excuses. Oh, it takes time. We're talking about some very, very easy things. This executive order is very doable. We were promised a public apology issued by Pam Bondi. For Pete's sake, I drafted it to help her get a start, so you can edit it. We were promised that. Hasn't come. I said, you know why this is so important to get this apology? Because so many of these families have lost family connections, friendships, jobs.
Yes.
This is very important. My oldest son hasn't talked to me in 3 years because, and I've been a good father. We've been very close, but these false media reports, the government designation of me as a terrorist, people with bad motives use that against me. So yeah, okay, you don't have time to issue an apology that I just penned for you. You don't have time for that, but you can let George Santos out, right? You can
Yeah.
help. You can appear on camera with Benny Johnson when his family gets threatened. And Benny should have had that. But Pam Bondi just got right on that for him. I've had death threats for 3 years and nobody's helped me. Nobody.
No.
And I
No.
get I get it. I don't have the following of Benny Johnson. And again, I don't begrudge him that. But we seem to have this double standard. And I wrote an article in a recent, I think it was the September Freedom Talk magazine, which I founded and I'm the editor in chief for. And the title of the article was, Is Justice Only for the Well Connected? Because it sure seems like that. And I hate to
Yeah.
say it because we all voted for Trump. We all support this administration. But too much time has gone by. And it's too little too late right now.